Welcome, boys and girls. Costin here with a discussion about some of the most direct legendary lords in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. These are not necessarily the most powerful legendary lords in the game, though all of them can be rightly considered very powerful legendary lords in their own right, but rather this is a list about campaigns where the path is very clear, very solid, and you get the job done. We have GROMBRINDAL, the very angry Santa over here of the dwarves. And if there's anyone who's more direct than GROMBRINDAL for the dwarves, who are all about vengeance and reckoning and making sure everyone pays their due, I'm not quite sure what there is. So he's the real perfect representation of what this video is about. But we'll talk about him in more detail in just a bit, because we have a list to go through of several legendary lords, and then we'll come back to GROMBRINDAL. At number 5, we have Elspeth von Draken of the Empire. We can talk about Karl Franz, we can talk about Balthazar Gelt, but if you're looking for an Empire campaign that is very clear-cut, you're going to have a hard time matching Elspeth's situation. I mean, her campaign dynamic is very, very simple at the end of the day. You go fight undead, you take back the Wizenland of Nuln, you get engineers, you get mages, and then you go take the fight to Saarland, and once Saarland is dealt with, you just march on Sylvania. Maybe you take out Averheim along the way, if you so desire. Maybe you just take out Stirland along the way, if that's also your desire. Personally, I would probably go for Stirland and Averheim. Just a good idea to take the Changeling out along the path as well. Bit of a windowed one, sure, but pretty clear cut from that perspective. And you aren't limited by diplomacy or starting position in the same way that Karl Franz or Gelt are in their respective campaigns. And that is one of the principal benefits that you do end up having in this specific campaign, playing as Elspeth von Draken. Furthermore, her entire campaign dynamic over here with the Imperial Gunnery School, again, also fairly clear-cut, for the most part, until you start getting into the Amethyst Armory. But by the time you actually get into the Amethyst Armory, by the time you've taken Sylvania and dealt with Vlad, you are in such an impregnable position that your campaign is effectively over. And that's what I mean by this list. It's a list of legendary lords where you end up decimating everyone in your path in a very clear, direct way. And then you do get to a point where you can branch out in a lot of different ways. Who do you go to war with? Which provinces you conquer? Where do you take the fight? Who do you help? Like, for instance, when you're playing an Elspeth campaign, you could go help the dwarves, or you could go help Karl. Or you could even fight Karl if you so desire. Or aim for helping Talabayam once Sylvania is dealt with, the dwarves have secured the southern flank, and you can go deal with Azag, deal with Rika, and then deal with Festus. All of those choices are available to you, and that's what makes Elspeth's campaign a really good candidate for this list. At number 4, we have Valkia the Bloody. And while Warriors of Chaos may not necessarily seem like a natural fit given everything that they have to deal with in their campaigns, Valkia is the single most direct campaign of the Warriors of Chaos. I mean, think of it. If you're playing Archeon, you could consider him one of that, but then you have to deal with Boris Ursus and potentially Tamarkan, potentially even Arbaal undefeated, so not necessarily as direct as you might like it. Whereas with Valkia, it's very clear-cut. You have a corner starting position, you have a vassal in the initial province that you control, or you gain control very, very quickly. You go fight Grand, you deal with Grand, or you can take some of their territory and then sell it back to them and get them as a vassal, which will give you a significant level of money if you so desire. But here's the important portion of this decision. You have choice from the very beginning of the campaign, but the path is pretty direct, really. Whether or not you vassalize or ally Malekith or ignore Malekith, which you can do because of the vassal that gives you a certain level of protection, so you can let him fight GROMBRINDAL all you want, but your goals are these dark fortresses over here. What you do in terms of vassalization is your decision, but your path is very clear. Through Halabron, through Malekith one way or another, for the Frozen City, and against Sigvold. You deal with Sigvold, the world is your oyster. You can go to Norska, you can continue down the path over here. You can go deal with Be'lakor if you so desire. The path that Khorne has in their campaigns is one of a great deal of choice of who you want to fight, but it also is fairly clear and fairly direct. It just presents a lot of different branches that you have, but all of those branches are not really hard to understand when you're talking about Khorne campaigns. Though in this case we are talking about Warriors of Chaos, the Khorne, the Monogod campaign of Khorne for them. And Valkia is a really good representation for this list as a whole. She's very strong and durable in battle. She might not be the flashiest legendary lord, but she's certainly quite capable of withstanding a heck of a lot of damage when we're thinking about the Gaze of Khorne, her own personal combat ability, her skill line, her melee capability. When you think about it, if you name it, you have it, and that is really the capability that Valkia brings to the table. Good luck ambushing her, dealing with her with ranged units or anything like that. She won't run out of money easily, she will replenish HP, and because she's a small single entity, she's actually really difficult to kill. I'm sure many people have gone up against Valkia will tell you this story of how brutal she is to actually fight in a battle, even at a lower level. Once you get her to a higher level, she is practically a one-man doomstack, at least in terms of durability. And the damage, well, that's why we have Khorne units, really, or Warriors of Chaos units and demonic units of Khorne. Would be nice to start with the Skull Cannon, I'm not gonna lie, but we do have that available. At number 3, we have Wurrzag, the Great Green Prophet. I know it might seem like a joke to certain people that are watching this video, but really, Wurrzag has a lot on offer in terms of having a direct campaign path. I mean, his initial enemies fall so quickly and so easily, and as a result of that, he gets himself a good chunk of territory available in his campaign from the very beginning of said campaign. And that is not something that one can say about many a legendary lord in their respective campaigns in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. On top of that, you gotta appreciate the fact that the guy actually starts with the ability of recruiting both Savage Orcs and regular Orc boys from the very start of it. He's also got every single spell of the lore of Mork right here available, the Gaze of Mork, in and well, just the entire spellbook of the Shaman book, right? He can get things like the Foot of Gork from very early on in his campaign, and his initial enemy is Tic-Tac-Toe. And Tic-Tac-Toe stands no real credible chance against Wurrzag in a fight. So that's how you gain control over 2 entire provinces very early on. And after that, well, that's up to you, honestly, what you want to do with regards to your campaign. That's your personal decision. To be certain, you do have certain buildings you need to construct and certain things you want to do, but it is a choice. Either path, however, does work. You could, for whatever unknowable reason, stay into the jungle and deal with Teclis and the Lizardmen over here and maybe make some alliance with Kairos. Or we can leave them all to their fate, because Kairos will certainly defeat them. And try your best to ignore Kroq-Gar right there while you instead march north. And marching north will eventually net you Gorbat, Skarsnik, eventually Grimgor, and Azag if you manage to reach Azag before Ungrim defeats him. If Ungrim does even manage to succeed in that respect. Campaign randomization is what decides that. Furthermore, he can recruit Savage Orcs from every single settlement. So let me just say it like this. Savage Orc Biggins are a different beast than regular Biggins. Biggins are powerful. Savage Orc Biggins are crazy. While the auto-resolve benefit is not there in comparison to regular Biggins, the sheer capability that these guys have in battle because of all the physical resistance and the frenzy capability that they have, as well as their insanely good charge bonus, combined with Wurrzag's lord and campaign benefits makes him ridiculous. And then on top of all of that, what's even crazier is he gets extra benefits to diplomacy with greenskins, magical benefits, wins a magic power benefits for his own army, and recruit rank for savage orc units for all armies in local province. And he starts with this. And we should also point out just how insanely good Savage Orc Boar Boy Biggins are. Like these guys, like the regular Orc Boar Biggins, pretty good. The Savage Orc Boar Biggins, completely different. Ridiculously good cavalry unit for what they are, for what they have on offer. And you can make them even better because you can give them... You can give them extra armor, for instance. You can give them charge bonus if you want to. Yeah, it is a crazy benefit stack that you end up having in this campaign when you are playing Wurrzag. Fairly clear-cut path. You got magic, you got an army of guys that are screaming at the top of their lungs that want to kill everything in their path. What else could you ask for? You could even get the Omens of Destruction DLC and get Savage Orc Great Shamans in order to have mini Wurzags as well, and the magical benefits that come from that. So Wurrzag gets things done. I mean, the guy is ridiculously good, and he also has a landmark in his initial settlement that gives him Rogue Idol recruitment at tier 3. Need I say more of what a Rogue Idol can do? I mean, if you want a big, powerful unit that can't be stopped very easily by most AI foes, and even when you're playing against a player, even a player has to change their entire strategy. Expensive unit, to be sure, but really, really good, really capable, and you get extra hero capacity for shamans as well. So yeah, this is a clear-cut path. Might not necessarily seem like that. You might think of Grimgor, you might think of Azag and all that, but Grimgor is direct in his gameplay style, but he doesn't necessarily have a direct campaign path. Wurrzag has both a direct play style and a direct campaign path all in one. At number 2, of course, we have Arbaal the Undefeated. And how can you not like Arbaal? He leads mortal units of Khorne, which are pretty strong, and he gets a bunch of benefits for said mortal units, and he goes around the world killing stuff. I'm not sure exactly if you could make a more direct campaign, even if you tried, really. I mean, it's kind of funny also abusing certain things with regards to, oh, you started the game, so you have the mission list on the right side right there, so, yeah, here's an extra bit of Khorne favor if you take advantage of that. It is a bit broken and a bit ridiculous, but it is strong. Also, same with being able to get both the Skull Harvester and the Armory early on in your campaign. That is also pretty good, and not something that should be denied. And if you own Omens of Destruction, that will benefit you as well. That construction cost, construction time for mortal buildings and defense buildings, pretty solid. Challenges of Khorne with all the benefits that come from that. Champion of the Blood God, so global recruitment duration -1 turn for all units. Hellblade for Chaos Warriors, Chosen, Chaos Knights. Whatever benefits might exist for demons, he gives them to mortal units for his own army. And that is what makes Arbaal an impregnable fortress, really. Expert charge defense for non-demonic infantry units for his own army is just crazy. Devastating flanker for Chaos Knights. Yeah. Whatever you might think of in terms of a pure melee meat grinder type legendary lord, Arbaal has it. And while he has a lot of choices he can make, and again, choices, his campaign path is direct. Beat the ogres, then do whatever the heck you want in this campaign. Or just beat the crap out of everyone in order in your campaign. Start with Astrogoth if you want, or the Norskins, or Boris Ursus. Whatever choice you make, it will all work out for you. In fact, this campaign is so ridiculously broken that it is routinely banned in all multiplayer matches, multiplayer campaigns that I've seen, just because of the nonsense. I mean, people allow Skarbrand, they don't allow Arbaal. That should tell you everything you need to know about him. And finally, we get back to GROMBRINDAL. I mean, this guy is Rage Incarnate, Wrath Incarnate. I mean, it makes sense for a dwarf campaign to be focused on their vengeance aspect, really. In a campaign, that's exactly what GROMBRINDAL does. That's what he focuses on in his campaign. He is the vengeance of the dwarves, specifically the vengeance against elves, really, because his entire reason for being, for existing, at least as far as fan speculation goes, is that he exists because Malekith broke his oath when Snorri died, and as such, he was brought back as GROMBRINDAL. GROMBRINDAL is ridiculous, would be putting it mildly. Like, the dwarf is obviously a favorite of Games Workshop for very clear and obvious reasons. And that's represented in the campaign as well. He gets 15 campaign movement range for all characters faction-wide. He stacks that with 15% campaign movement range he has personally. He has a bunch of benefits for Iron Drakes and War Machine units. Yes, all of them. And that means he gets melee defense, missile strength, and ammunition for those things. He gets speed for his entire army, which, given dwarf movement speed, is a pretty damn big deal. He gets vigor, lost reduction. He has 4 different quest battles that each give you a truckload of money and are not necessarily the most difficult quest battles to do in a campaign. Like, seriously, think of this campaign situation. I'm turn 9, I have 3,000 gold in the bank, but I can get to over 10k by just finding that first quest battle. And I'm just getting started here, really. Nagron lies ahead of me. There's other things that I am going to want to do over here in this campaign once Nagron has been taken. I gotta appreciate Malekith making it to tier 3 so I can capture it to tier 2. And also get a rebellion from the settlement when I do capture it. So, GROMBRINDAL is crazy good, crazy direct. Just beat up Malekith and then just beat up everyone else. Whatever order you want. Start with Valkia, make your way south, conquer Ulthuan. And here's the thing. Because he has such a movement range dynamic, he can get things done faster in his campaign than any other dwarf campaign, maybe all of them combined. You can control half the world by turn 60 without even really trying for it in this campaign, depending on how things match. Largely because of the changes to the Legendary Grudge system and the Legendary Lord Confederation. Due to all the things that you're doing, you're going to have so many Legendary Grudges that when you do confederate another faction, you will gain all their territory. In this case, it seems like Thorgrim might be a good option, or Belegar might be a good option. And then you keep fighting battles. You're moving so fast and so hard with so many armies. And basic dwarf armies, especially ones that you might get through confederation, are so good that very few things will stop you. And then you add the Age of Reckoning on top of that, and you can see how the steamroll of a campaign cannot be stopped. This is like a freight train of a campaign. Once it has momentum, there's no stopping this train. And that is GROMBRINDAL in a nutshell as a campaign. Very clear, very direct, very simple path, all things considered, but it gets the job done. Like, I think everyone should at least play GROMBRINDAL. Out of all the campaigns I have listed, should play GROMBRINDAL at least once and really let themselves go with that and see where it takes them. That's all I had to say. Costin signing out. Stay tuned for more. And don't forget, if you're playing GROMBRINDAL, you do need to burn Ulthuan to the ground. Make them pay.